rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Hello and welcome back. So this time we're going to be working on getting this beautiful new-ish Franklin put back together. I've got my parts delivered and I did have an issue. I wanted to mention it to you. The slide plates I needed to replace, okay, because that's just eaten through and bad. So I ordered some new slide plates for Singer, you know, it lists all these sizes. And to tell you, these slide plates, they're like 4 millimeters too short. You know, sometimes if they're a little bit too wide, you can kind of get that to work by grinding off a little bit on the sides, but they were, both the front and the back were about that much too short. So that is not working. I am returning them. And so I'm going to be using my plan B for my slide plates, which is to polish up another set that I have from a Singer 27. They need to be polished, but they're not nearly as bad as these are, so we can still make that work. I'm still waiting for the shuttle to arrive in the mail. I think that's supposed to get here next week, but I can get everything else put together and test it out with the donor shuttle, just to make sure it works. So anyhow, I did buy a new motor for this machine and a new electronic foot pedal, so we're going to be using that instead of the old one. So I'm just getting all of my parts sorted over here. I am going to get started, where am I going to get started? Probably on the bottom here. So let me get my parts out of my bin and we'll start putting everything back together. I'll probably get started up here first. So let me get it set down. I'm going to get my yoga block, which I have a plastic bag over it so I can keep it clean, but it's really nice to prop up things because it's soft and it won't scratch anything. Okay, so I am going to put this little piece back on here first. That's going to fit well. Before I actually cinch it in though, I'm going to put some oil inside and on here. Spin it around to distribute it pretty well because, you know, we want that. There are a couple little holes go all the way through. This is like a clamp. And I have my little polished screws that I need to put back in here. I still need to put the little cap on the top here. That is this little threaded piece. I'm going to screw it on. And there's a little bitty set screw that goes into this hole over here. Okay, that is on all the way. And that's moving a little loose. I'm going to back it off a hair. That's still good. Okay, let me go ahead and put the set screw in over here. And that's going to tighten this on so it doesn't want to come off. Okay, so this is on. It's not going anywhere. This is spinning freely. So we are in business. I'm going to go ahead and get this piece out now. As you can see, it still has a light coating of oil on it, but it's clean. I'm going to go ahead and polish this area here where this bearing is, and I'm going to polish up these feed dogs again. All right, so for these feed dogs, what I need to tell you is that I was not able to get the feed dogs actually off the bracket here. The thing is that they were so far rusted on and welded on, I could probably hammer them off. I don't know why this screw is not starting for me. But it was at the point when I was tapping on it with my hammer that I was afraid that I was going to bend the feed dogs or something. And to me, that is a worse atrocity than leaving them on and polishing around it, you know? Because I'm going to assume that the height that they are is the height that has been working for the last 100 years or whatever this machine is. And that hopefully it does not need to be adjusted because it's not going to get adjusted, okay? So, yeah, let me go ahead and get this polished up and put back on, and then we'll be ready to go. Okay, so now that this is all clean and ready to go, I'm just going to stick a little drop of oil in this area where it's going to be rubbing back and forth because we want that to be happy. We're trying to keep it from ever needing to go through a rust removal process like that again, you know? Okay, so this is going to set in here like this. Okay, so I need to get my pivot points out. They're going to screw in the both sides right here and hold this shaft here in place. All right, so I've got them in. I'm not sure if I have them adjusted exactly correct, but it feels pretty good. So that's good. There's a big screw point I should have showed you, and then there's a nut that goes on the outside. It's a 9/16 inch nut. I have them both hand tight right now, and I can cinch them in later when I know for sure. But I won't know exactly if this is placed correctly until I get this plate on up here and can check against the feed dogs. So with that, there is another shaft that's going to go down here. So let me get this out. It's connected with two different eccentric bolts. And I did not mark which is which, so I will figure that out when I get it out here. Okay, so I can figure out which one because these are two different lengths. There's a shorter one and a longer one. And I need to be able to put this nut on the back of this one. And the longer one is the only one that is long enough to be able to do that. So that is it. So let me put this bar on here. This goes through here, and I'm just going to get this little nut on the back side started. It's an awkward position, and I will probably drop it a couple times. I might have to hold it with a magnet on the side, maybe. Give me a minute. I got to figure this thing out, but there's a nut that goes on the back here, and then I'll tighten it up from the front. There are some little screws that go in these clamps, and I'm just getting it started. I'm not getting it super tight because I want to be able to tighten it once I'm ready. Putting a bit of clean oil on here. And I got to line up this little hole. There we go. Okay, let me go ahead and screw this in so it's nice and tight. Okay, so it's all connected. Looks like this is moving well, so that's good. This isn't moving yet because that vertical shaft that it's connected to is not in place yet. I'm hearing a bit of rubbing, but I think that's from way up in there, and I just need to get more oil in a certain spot. And I think that has to do with where my main shaft is still kind of flexible because I don't have the bushing on it yet, so. Let me go ahead and get the little holder that the shuttle will sit in back in place. I have cleaned it off previously, but I'm going to give it a final polish now. So it doesn't look brand new, but it's a whole lot better than it was. And this was bent. This button you push, and you see how that goes like that? That is like the ejector to push the little shuttle out. Okay, so that's what that is, but that was all bent really cockeyed. So I hope that it still fits when I put it back into the machine up there. Anyhow, this slides under here. If you can see, there's this little screw hole in a bracket right there. Let's turn this. Okay, that's the bracket. I need to get this little flat part underneath, and then there's a flat screw that goes through there to hold it all together. So what works for me is to kind of get it in from the top part so that the little flap is under here, and then get it placed correctly. You know what? I'm thinking there. I can move that out of the way that way. Let me go ahead and get this little screw back in place here. I want to show you, I am just setting this in here so it will barely work inside of this little half moon area and not scrape it. And it looks like I actually might need to make a tiny adjustment. But there is a little bit of play in here with this screw, so I can loosen it up a bit and move this in and out. So when it comes time to actually time up the machine, and if it's having trouble picking up thread, it might be because I didn't have this in the exact proper placement, but that's an easy fix because you can get to that screw pretty easily. I think that's going to work for now. Okay. All right, I'm going to need to get this back in place along with everything else that has to do with stitch length. So what we've got is, this is the screw that comes in from the outside. And I might as well get that just barely started here. I know I'm using a lot of oil, but honestly, I can wipe off the excess later and this machine could use it. I'm going to actually spray a little bit more in there. Keep everything super goopy and happy while I'm working. And again, I can clean it out later. All right, so the end of this piece had a little nub, and that little nub is going to travel in here. Okay, it's going to be right in that slot right there. Okay, and this piece here is the slidey part that this bearing is going to go back and forth in. So before I put this in, I'm going to repolish this bearing, you know, put enough oil on this that it never wants to rust again. Polish up in here again, a little more oil in there, and then this bolt is going to come from the outside through here and screw in here. So I'm not going to show you as I do it because there's no way you can see in there. Just know it's a whole bunch of finagling and holding your mouth right kind of thing. Well, I fought with it for a while, and then I realized I can't get it put in because I don't have the bushing and wheel back on, or at least the bushing on, and the bushing is what's going to hold the main shaft in place. So putting these pieces here aside for a moment, getting this piece out, and we'll put that back together. Came off, so I know it'll go back on. I need to make sure when I'm tapping this on that this and this hole are lined up. I'm using the rubber side or the nylon side of my little tappety hammer here. So give me a minute to get those lined up, and then there's a screw that's going to go in there and secure it together. Right, so once I have it tapped as far as I can this way, I need to push it, be able to push the little cog here in the front in, because I just need to. So I'm going to flip her around so I can have the right hand holding the hammer here, pushing this end in with this hand, the nylon end over here. I'm going to turn it upright so I can see the little holes when they start to align. And that looks just about perfect. So I'm going to get this little screw and put it back in. Okay, I want to show you this. Remember I was telling you how this ejector thing was all bent? I think I see what the issue is, and I might have to actually remove it. It sticks out pretty far. I'm going to try to bend it in more, but it's running right into this bracket right here, you know, which should not be. So I'm going to take this out, try to bend this down a little more so it'll hug up a lot closer here, and see if that's going to work. Okay, I wanted to show you that I have the stitch length all put back together again, this secured. The fork is on the right little cog up here. You can see. I actually still need to secure it down here on the bottom. So this little bracket, which is the bottom of that fork, can get connected here. And there is an eccentric screw in my bag of parts somewhere. That is not it. Let me find that little screw and I will be right back. Okay, so this is it. It's going to go through here and Get these lined up, and then there's a little nut that's going to go on the inside right here. So let me get my little screwdriver and get that cinched in. Hear my wind chimes out there. I've got my door open because it's such a beautiful day today. And got massive wind chimes, and I love them. Okay, so if I turn this, I'm still dealing with bumping down here. I'm wondering if this wasn't a replacement, if that's not maybe not the original, because it's just, you see how that's just not fitting? I have one from a 27, and since a lot of 27 parts seem to be fitting on this machine, I might go grab it just to see if it'll fit. I don't know if it will or not. Well, I don't think that's going to work because this is the one for my 27, and if you can see, it's not quite the right length. This hole is up higher than theirs, and so it's like a 1/16 of an inch too short. Since this was not functional in the first place, I think what I'm going to do is just cut off right here with a little grinding wheel this little piece. And, you know, it wasn't functional anyway in the beginning, and it's just causing issues now. So let me do that and see if I can get that to work in her. Okay, so I cut it off right here, and yes, I did wear my goggles, so all is good. I'm going to go ahead and put it back on and see if that's going to work. I really hope it does. Oh, and I have to show you something. I'm just sick. Sick! I did not notice until I just flipped this machine over, but this is the back side here, and I am afraid that when I clear coated, something happened, and only on the decal on the very back of the machine here, something happened and the gold ran. None of the other ones. The other ones are all fine, thankfully. Thankfully, this is, you know, very well hidden because it's in the back, but the gold ran. I don't know why. I haven't had that happen, so that's so frustrating. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Anyhow, let me go ahead and try to get this little bracket back in. Okay, it's not banging on this anymore, so that's good. So now I'm going to make an adjustment down here. And I need to tighten up the nut on the back. And so hopefully all of this will be good. But again, I won't be able to know for sure until I get my plate up there on the top. Okay, so if you can see, it's turning. That's good. And this over here, if you watch that, it is bumping up and down a little bit. So that is good. Where do I have that set? Well, right now I have it turned all the way in. Let me pull it out. Some to like a medium length stitch. I should put the wheel back on because it's hard to turn without a wheel on here. But yeah, I'm hopeful at this point. I'm very hopeful, so that's good. I can see the feed dogs moving up and down here. So, alrighty. I think that is about it for my screws that go underneath. That is something else. I'm going to go ahead and put my hand wheel back on so that it'll be easier to turn. Here it is. And again, I'm going to put some oil in here just because that's a nice thing to do. All right. Come on, I know you're going to go on because you came off. Give me a second. Let me just wiggle it on there. All right. Oops, you know what? I think I have this on backwards. I think these actually go this way. Yeah, the belt is on the outside of the wheel on these, which is interesting. Okay. So there we go. This has a washer with only one little tab. So I'm going to try this way. If that's not right, I'll flip it around. This was on the outside. It was very rusty. It's not rusty anymore, but it's not perfect, but you know. we do what we can do and put the little screw back in here. And then let me get this screw tightened up, and then I'll try it and see if I can get the wheel to turn the main shaft, because if you remember when I was taking this apart, it would not. So if I turn this wheel, is this turning? Yay! Oh, look at there. Look at that, look at that. We are in business. Okay, the next question is, if I disengage this, will it not? Ooh, okay, I turned to a turn and a half. I don't know if that's normal for Franklin's or not. And yeah, it did disengage the clutch. So I think we are good. Just, being aware that the clutch for this, on a Singer, it's like a quarter turn. On this one, it seems to be a turn and a half or so. But it does do its thing. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to flip that washer over and see if it does something different. Aha! I did have it on the wrong way, so I flipped the washer over. I'm going to try to polish that a little bit better. But now with the washer turned this way, it is more of just a quarter turn. So I think that is the correct placement. I know it looks a little bit rough, but it's so much better. And that is not rust. That's that black pitting that comes once the rust has been removed. I use that evapor-rust stuff on it before I clean the part. So there you go. If I lean this back a little bit, can I turn the wheel? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Okay, welcome back. It's actually been several hours. I had to take a break. Now I'm back. So I'm going to get started putting stuff together on the nose here. I'm going to put the bottom parts together first. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to get, what I have in my hand is this one that goes over here. And if you remember, it was kind of a pistol to get out, but this little bearing here travels inside of a groove, if you can see. Right in here, there's a little groove in that cog. Okay, so I need to get it to go in there. So let me move all of this out of the way, and I believe I was able to get it out by moving from this part, and yeah, that's set in there really nicely. Okay, so here's my flathead screw. It's a lot cleaner than it used to be. I'm going to actually put a drop of oil in there because I don't want anything to rust again, and get this cinched on. Okay, so now that that is on, if I turn the wheel, that thread take-up lever is going up and down nicely, so that's a good thing. Okay, let me go ahead and flip her back this way so we can continue up on top. Okay, so I'm going to be working on my little lifter lever, which slides in here on that little hole, and on this little hole is this piece. Now I put them in the same baggie, and when I pulled them out, look, the two screws that put them in are identical. You don't see that very often. So at least they look identical at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick one and get this little lever cinched in first. I might need to get a little magnet to hold that in place, or you know what, I'm going to use my little screw starter, because that is such a tight little space. My fingers don't want to get in there. So let's see. Okay, once the threads get started, then I can pull this off and go ahead and put my screwdriver back in there. So I got to change out my bit to a smaller one. Constantly changing bits here, it feels like. And get this cinched in. You know what? It's so tight against the side, my Chapman won't fit in there. I need to get a regular little flat skinny screwdriver. I think that will fit in here. And it does. Okay, I want to make sure when my screw is in all the way that this is still moving very freely, and it is. So let me go ahead and get this one in place. This, I want to put it so that this flat side here is up against this area where the tension mechanism is going to be mounted, okay? So let me just put that screw in there, pop that in the hole, and since I have this screwdriver in my hand already, try to go ahead and get it started in those threads. Whoa, it does not want to. Look, I'm walking everywhere. Okay, I'm going to probably need to get that camera out of the way so I can get a better angle, but you know what I'm trying to do. Okay, this screw is in all the way, and this is still moving back and forth freely. That is what I want. I'm going to get started with my presser lever, but I need to get this part put in first, and I'm looking for the little bearing. Okay, this little bearing I just dropped. If you look, it looks like a screw that has a bearing around it. It's one piece here. That's going to get screwed into this little hole here. If I can get it started. I'm having a hard time getting threads started on this machine. It must be just me. Come on. I think I need to look at it from a different angle maybe. Hang on a sec. But I forgot that this is a reverse threaded one. So the reason it was not starting is because it's reverse threaded. So this is lefty-tighty. So I could have sat there and tried to screw it in righty-tighty all day long and nothing would have happened. So there you go. Okay, now that that is on, again, another drop of oil on and around this guy here and in this little area. This needs to go onto it, okay? And I'm just going to set this here on the side over here. I don't think my light is on. That's no good. Okay. On the side over here, there's a slot in the casting, and this little slot here is going to travel in that. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of set that there for right now because I need to put my presser bar on top of that. So here's my presser bar, and let's see, this little block, this side here is going to go into the slot on this side. This tiny little screw, you can back it out and that will allow it to be slightly narrower, which sometimes makes it easier to go into that slot. So I'm going to back it out a little bit here. Okay, so you can see it's just a little bitty screw. I'm just backing it out some. Hopefully that will allow it to go in well. You know what? We're going to put oil. Lots of oil. Okay, and now that that is in, I'm just going to move it up and down a little bit just to make sure it has a good range of motion, and I think it does. Okay, angle you up. From the very top, I'm putting my presser bar in, and the first thing that's going to slide on there is this little washer, like that. And the next thing is going to be this spring on here like this, and then the bar slides down through the block down here. And you know what? I'm going to put some oil in this little hole here too. Putting oil everywhere. It needs a lot of oil. Like I said, I can always mop up the excess later. Okay. All right. Okay, so it has gone through. Look at that, it's a little bit dirty coming out, so I am definitely going to clean that up. Up here at the very top, there is the finial that goes on. I'm going to give this another quick polish. It was terrible, it was solid rust, but I want to try to polish it up a little bit one more time. And I need this block under here to behave itself. It needs to be nice and flat, and it has knocked out of alignment. So, I may have to pull this out just to straighten this block out again up there. Okay, I'm getting this twisted back in here. Just enough. I can cinch it down more later. At this point, this will move up and down. It feels a little stiff though to me. I think I might push this up a little more and try to put some more cleaning in this little hole here to try to open that up. I thought I had it completely cleaned out before, but you never know. You never know. Okay, I want to show you, this is the original foot. And I've cleaned it up pretty well. You know, there's some indentions where the rust has just eaten the metal away. And this is very usable, and I'm going to be putting it back on. But this machine is just a typical low shank machine. So all of the replacement Singer style low shank feet will work on this machine. So, you know, if you ever want to switch it out or you need a zipper foot or anything like that, just the ones that work with Singer, just look for a low shank and that will work just fine. Okay, so now that that is moving around, I'm just going to come down here and press it all the way down. Move this. Well, I can't really move that. I need to get this little screw here set, and so just temporarily I'm going to pull this down till it meets the feed dogs, if you can see. I know this is not totally correct placement, but I just need something so I can put this little screw in and hold it. Okay, so let me get my little screwdriver here and get that cinched in, and later on when I am doing final adjustments, if I need to raise this foot or lower it any, I can just undo this little screw a bit, push the bar up or down however it needs, and then, you know, reset it. I am, let's see, at this point, let me undo this just a hair. Okay, so if I get this little finial cranked down more, that will put pressure on this spring. See how it's just now coming down, so it's going to make contact with it. Okay, so now if I raise this up, it is up, lower it, it's going to go down. Like I said, I'm going to need to adjust that later. It is what it is. Oh, look at that. I forgot to put this thing on. I hate these things, you know. I'm going to have to take this off and slide it back on because I know not everybody is me, Megan, looking at you. And sometimes people like them. And you know what? I'm notorious for putting them on upside down just because I don't use them all the time. And sometimes that happens. But I think I'm good right now. I think the sharp part is on the top here. I believe that is how it's supposed to go. If not, if you need to flick them, turn them around, just remove the foot, pull it off with pliers or something to knock it down, because that's, you know, tetanus, and then put your foot back on. Okay, what I need to do now is get my needle bar in. This is the bottom, this is the top. Just going to slide it in, slide it through this. Actually, I'm going to, you know, throw more oil in here. Just flood that little thing with oil. And I need to wiggle this over because it's not quite in alignment. Now the stuff is out again. I want to show you what I had to do. This little slot, this piece was not sliding up and down in that slot. So I had to take everything out, put a whole bunch of oil in there, and then I came back with my little new tiny rotary tool, and I'm just keeping a wire brush on it. And I was able to get my wire brush in there and just went back and forth in that little slot over and over, putting more and more oil in it until I could put this in, throw the needle bar in, and now it's going, well, it was going up and down. There you go. Okay. I think I have my clutch engaged or something down here. But you can see it's, why is it stopping? Why are you stopping, little clutch? little wheel. Hang on a second. It should keep going up and down, and for some reason it is stopping right there. Okay. More troubleshooting ahead. If I pull the wheel backwards, away from me, it goes really well. See that? But that's backwards. If I go this way, it doesn't want to. Just troubling, to say the least. So let me play with it a little bit more. It's probably just going to be a matter of more clean out and stuff like that. So what I meant is I got my little thing here and got in the slot, and I'm just going back and forth and cleaning things out. And I sprayed a whole bunch of oil and stuff in there, and I'm just going to keep going back and forth until I can figure out why it is stopping. And it might not even be this part. It might be something here or somewhere else. So I am going to, you know what? I feel like going and getting a glass of wine before I finish this, but it almost feels like the clutch is coming disengaged. Because if I just hold that clutch together, no, it's still not wanting to go. Okay, well, just give me a while, okay? And I will be back when I have it sorted. Okay, the problem was the clutch. For some reason, I thought I had it twisted in, but I didn't. So, you know, there you go. Okay, so see this circle on the needle bar? It's on this side, and it's smaller on that side, bigger on this side. The bigger side is going to line up with this hole right there in this bracket. And I need to put a little screw through there, and there's a bigger screw that goes over here in that clamp area. So bigger one's easier to grab really quick, so I'm just going to get that set in. Okay, and now unfortunately I have two tiny screws here. One is threaded all the way and one is not. It's at the tip, it's not. And I believe that this is for the needle. So I will try this one up here. If it doesn't work, I will switch them out. So let me see here. Just getting this cinched in, and let's see if the needle bar goes up and down. And it does. We are so close to sewing now. Okay, let me go ahead, and I have a needle clamp and a little thread guide I need to put on here. I'm going to flip her over so I can see the back side of this needle. See if you can see. Right here, there's an upper hole, and then there's a lower indent here. The upper hole is where this little eyelet on the thread guide gets lined up, and then there's a screw that goes through there holding it on, maybe. All right. So if I put this here and get my little screw, I don't know if I can do this so that I can see what I'm doing and you can see what I'm doing. Probably not, because my hands are backwards here. But trust me, the little screw goes through the eyelet into that upper hole. Okay, now that that is on, I'm just going to put my little needle clamp back on. The screw screws into the part that had that little dimple. Okay, that's where the screw is going to set in. Should at least. Okay, so it's set into that area. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay. Okay, so this is what we got so far. The owner is working on a cabinet box. I think it's kind of like a bentwood case that it was in. And they're working on repairing that. But this is a box that I have in my shop that I could set it in. So you can see what we have so far. Everything seems to be moving appropriately. I need to get the tension mechanism put together and put back in place here before we can start to get things fine-tuned in place. So let me get all of those pieces. Okay, so I am just working on getting this put back together. I've got the pin in, this little plate in the back. The check spring on this thing is a little tweaked. Not gonna lie, it's a little tweaked, but I don't know that I can get a Franklin check spring, so we are gonna make the best of it and see how she does. If you remember, these were completely rusted over. So actually, let me give them one quick polish and I'll be right back. Okay, so if you remember, this little rod was rusted in there. So I'm just gonna, you know what, put some more oil in because it definitely can't hurt at this point. And slide it in. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Should I have done it from the back? Probably. Oh, I don't know that I can from the back. You need to go in there, little rod. Little rod. Hang on a second. I may need to unscrew it and then slide this back in. I know I had to take the whole thing out to put that pin in from the back because one side of the pin is slightly flattened, which goes back here. Okay, look at that. I have been flushing this out with oil, but it's still nasty in there. I'm going to go get my tiny little brush that I use to clean out my air gun to clean this out. Okay, I actually have a few sets of these, so I'm just going to make this one the designated dirty one. Okay, so I can stick my little brush in there and pull it out. These are kind of cool. It comes in all different sizes. But just keep doing that until it comes clean. Looks like I'm ready for a new glove here. Okay, I think that is better. I'm going to throw this in there, and is it going to move in and out easily? Yes, it is. Okay, that's really good. I'm happy with that. You know, so I'm going to go ahead and put all of this back together again. Okay, well, let me tell you where I am tonight. I've got tension back on here, but for some reason this tension relief lever thing, it's not moving, and I have a feeling I need to take all of this back out again to figure out why that little piece that is right here that should be going like that is not going like that. I think something might be a little bit misaligned. But honestly, it is late. It is dark outside. My little dogs are barking, and I am going to go back in the house, take a break, and I will see you probably tomorrow, and we'll work on this some more. Good morning. Welcome to the next morning. So I'm back here. Let me show you what I got. I started unscrewing this and decided to turn on the camera. This, for some reason, this piece is very narrow, and it is so narrow that it is not engaging correctly to release the tension. What I'm going to try to do is take this off and put a washer behind it to boost it up just a fraction, you know. I just grabbed a washer from my random box of stuff. Does anyone else keep a random box of stuff? And I'm going to screw this back in, temporarily put the pressure bar back in, and see if I can get it to work. And if I can, fabulous. Well, I need to turn the camera off because, you know, this is in the way. But if I can get this to work by putting in that washer, great. I just have to reassemble everything. If not, I'll tell you what plan B will be. Okay, so obviously the washer thing did not work. So what I ended up doing is taking this little piece over to my vise, and I bent this ever so slightly out, just a tiny little bit. And now if I lift this, get this out of the way. If I lift this, it's going to move it. For some reason, I don't know if it got bent or if it was a defect or something, it wasn't working. But now, if I put my whole little tension deal back together, and I'm going to do that right now, we'll see if this works before I put my presser bar back in. Okay, I want to show you guys where I am here. Basically, this piece needs to push over to release the tension. You see how when I push this, it lets these come free out here. So that releases the tension, so you can just pull your thread, okay? But if I lift this all the way, it does absolutely nothing, okay? It's lined up now, so it would engage. Before it was completely behind it. So it's lined up so it should engage. If I tip this all the way out, you can kind of see it moving a little bit, but it's not going to do anything because it's like this piece is too high. And the only thing I can think of is if I bend this piece down, but this is a flat, like 1/4 inch wide flat piece, and I just don't want to go arbitrarily hammering on it, you know? And I looked, because I only have 127 parts machine, and the piece that they use here, it's shaped a little bit differently, but I was going to see if I could use it. That piece is missing, so I must have already used it for something else. Don't know what, but I must have. So, yeah, at this point, it looks to me like the tension mechanism, the tension release mechanism, is just not able to engage. And I can put the block in here as it should be and put the pressor bar in it as it should be. These are always kind of a pain to wiggle in, not gonna lie. I gotta pull this needle bar back out and do that. And it does absolutely nothing. So if I pull this in, put the pressor bar back down through it, and try again, nothing, you know? Pretend this is, my finger is the spring pushing it back down. It's not going to do anything. So there you go. I'm going to think on it a minute, and if nothing comes to my mind, I'm just going to reassemble it, and we're just going to have to assume that you're going to have to manually release tension or something. Okay, I gave in. I took this out, took it over to my vise, and started hammering on it. And so this is a much more open V than it was before. And now it releases. So the big question is, will the needle bar still fit with my new and improved shape? And it does. So here's the thing, this bent actually fairly easily. And I am wondering if just, you know, through use and wear, if that V kind of closed up on its own. So, you know, now you know. So anyway, now I have to put everything back together. But since this isn't connected yet up here, I'm going to go ahead and flip this around so that I can put my little thread guide and everything from this side instead of having to reach around the inside there and get that put on. If I place it like this, it's going to have the opening towards the front, and that seems to be making the most sense to me right now, so that's the way I'm going to do it. But, you know, if that ever bothers anyone, all you have to do is undo this tiny little screw that I'm going to put right here, take it off, and flip it the other way. And show you, but you might have noticed I've got plates here. These are actually the original plates that came with the machine, because since the new ones, and usually, here's my thing, usually if I'm getting a remade import type of a plate, it's usually the same manufacturer for all the suppliers. They just buy from the same place. So I'm not really looking into buying a new one at this point. So I just cleaned up the originals. I soaked them in the evaporust, so the rust is gone. But what this is where the plating had disappeared, but I've used my polishing wheel, and I have a fiber wheel over there, which is, you know, very, very rough, to get all of the roughness off. Polished it up with the compound. I think that's going to work, but if they ever want to replace them with original real Singer 127 plates, you know, they're available on eBay or wherever. Go ahead and purchase those. But the remade ones didn't fit. They were too short. And the original 127 plates do fit. You know, it's not that I was ordering the wrong things, because this is from my parts 127. You know, and you can see it's got issues too. But it's the exact same length. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with that, but there you go. So I'm just going to be putting these back on. I think that that's going to be okay. I put my little wheel, my little round one on here, just to see if the feed dogs and were coming up to the right height and centered. And so I made a couple little adjustments down below with the pivot points, and now I think we're good. So I'm just going to get this little bit tightened down here. Once I have all of this together, if I still need to make any adjustments as far as the little shuttle carrier down there, I can still do that. So let me finish putting all of this stuff back together like you saw before. You don't need to see that again, but yeah, we have tension release, so that's cool. Okay, so it's back together now. Ta-da. There you go. Never give up, never surrender, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so we are getting down to the final parts, and oh, I didn't put this back together yet. Okay, I need to put the bobbin winder together, so let me move this machine, put my little tray here, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Okay, so here it is. It's not painted, it's just a polished metal, and it's all cleaned up, looking lovely. Everything's spinning as it should. This spring works as it should. This screw is the one that's the mounting screw, so I don't need to worry about that for right now. When I was cleaning this, I went ahead and put this little part back together so I would have it situated. So I've got a little square nut, I've got a little spring washer here, and this goes on here. Okay, so you just kind of push it through. The threads are out here. The thing to be aware of is, see, there's a little bit of play here. You want these teeth to engage. If they're too close, it's going to bind up. If they're too far, it's not going to work. And this is an eccentric bolt, so it's not quite center. So you find the place where it's spinning nicely. I don't know if you can tell, that is spinning nicely. It's not bound up. So I want this to stay in this position, okay? And then come in the back, and I'm going to pop my little spring and nut on here. What? I think that little spring goes on the inside. So excuse me while I take this off again. Pop that out, pop this off. Okay, putting the spring in here where it fits nicely. Should have been a clue, you know. Pop this back on, make sure that this screw is set where it needs to be, and then put my little round nut on the back. Okay, so with that on, I'm just going to spin it, make sure it's spinning freely, and it is, and make sure that when I'm spinning it, this little heart-shaped cog is moving around, and it is, so we are good. Okay, this little follower, I'm going to stick, it has a side with a little part that sticks out on this spring and one that is a hook. Side that just sticks out, I'm going to stick that in the middle hole. There's 3 holes there, okay. This helps the thread travel back and forth. And I'm going to set it right here for right now, because I want the little hook on this spring to go around that part. So with it just kind of hanging out there, I'm going to get this nut, or this bolt started. I find that I use the improper terminology all the time. Technically, these are all bolts and not screws, but you know, I'm calling them screws anyway. Okay, so it's not screwed in all the way. I still have play there, because now I'm going to lift this up and bring it over to this side of the little heart-shaped cam. And this spring is still feeling very loose, but I'm going to go ahead and tighten it, and if I need to, I can take it off and move it to one of the other holes. I need to make sure that it is below. Hang on a sec. I think my problem is that I got a little bit of that spring in the wrong spot. Okay, you want to keep your spring out of harm's way here. I'm going to get this started a little bit more and bring it over. Now it's nice and springy. If I can get it over all of this. I need to undo a turn here. Bring it over and tighten it up. And I think we are good. So if I pull this out, is it snapping? No. This spring wants to pop out of the hole down there. Okay, hang on a second. I actually ended up having to move that little spoked part into one of the other circles there, the little hole that's closest to the bottom. I think that spring has just about seen better days, but you know, we are engaged now. It's not the snappiest, but it's snappy enough that it's going to hold it together. So I'm just going to come back, get the rest of all of these screws tightened up, and hopefully I'll be able to put it back onto the machine. The little bracket that this gets put onto, I did lightly paint and clear coat, but there's a good chance that paint's going to come off when I push this on because it's a pretty tight fit. So if that happens, I am aware. That's okay. So again, just one more time, making sure everything is good. I wish that was snappier. I might see if I have another spring somewhere that I can just swap out with this one. Okay, that's a little bit better. It's the same spring, I just, played with it a little more. If yours is ever not moving, this part up here, there's a little hole. Put a drop of oil in there, spin it around. That might help, you never know. Let me go ahead and get the machine over here so I can try to put this on. So I don't know if you can see, I've popped it onto the bracket. There's a little screw on the inside, that mounting screw, and I am just tightening that up. Okay, like that. Okay, so now the dilemma that I have been putting off is how to engage this. Because here's the thing, this is kind of like a Singer 27 or 28 that was originally designed to work on a treadle machine. And if you had a treadle belt, it would come around here and go straight down, okay? And so with that belt coming straight down here, if you wanted to run the bobbin winder, you just brought it forward and it would engage it or whatever. Put it back and it didn't. I don't have that option because we are putting a motor on here. Apparently it ran with a motor before, so that's what we're going to be doing. I bought a new motor. Where is it? It's over here. It's one of these Alpha Sew motors, and it did come with a bracket. Okay, this is a 1.5 amp motor, so it should be plenty powerful, hopefully. So let me get this attached, because what I'm thinking is I'm going to have to use 2 different belts or something. I haven't figured it out. Let me get this attached and we'll go from there. Okay, so here's another detour. This is my new motor. This is the existing motor. This is not stock. This is the little pulley that came with it. This is the pulley from this motor. I was trying to see if I could get it to work because on this machine the place that the belt goes is actually on the outside of the balance wheel, not on the inside. This is made for a belt, like a traditional Singer, where there's the machine, the belt, and then the balance wheel on the outside. That machine needs a really, really long shaft. This does not have it. I was trying to put this on just to see, and it's still too short. So I did not want to, but right now I don't really see another option except for to tear this one apart and see if I can clean it up and put a new wire on it. So I'm going to open it up just to see how disgusting it is. If it looks too scary, I'll go inside and do some research and see if there's, any other current manufacturer who makes very long shafts, and we can just go from there. So then this is for my own use, probably more than the video, but I am removing these two bolts to take off the bracket. I'm guessing these are brush caps, but they don't really have a screw hole or anything to be able to get to brushes, so there's that. Okay, let me take these two little nuts off down here. Those aren't coming off easily. I'm going to go ahead and open up these two screws. No, I'm not. Okay. Okay, I'm with my old motor here. I have sprayed cleaner through the ports because I can't open this thing. I cannot get these bolts off, and these angry looking screws, if you can see, they're very angry. They're put in at an angle. They've got very sharp edges on them. Don't even know. So I'm having a conundrum over here. But I did get the brush pulled out. Look, that brush looks really good. There's still a whole lot of length on there. So I'm hopeful that the other one is the same. You know, they should be symmetrical at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and put that brush back in there, put the cap back on. Actually, I'm going to polish this cap because why not at this point? Check the other side. And I'm just going to temporarily rig up some wires on here just to see if it even turns. If it sparks all crazy and everything, well, then we know it's bad news. But just out of curiosity, see if it works. All right, so I have it plugged in. I don't have my final little tube shrink wrapped onto it yet. I need to shrink wrap that on. What I did is going through all of these ports, I cleaned it up the best I could. And you can see the copper is a lot shinier now. I've checked the brushes. The brushes look good, okay. Underneath here, what I used is the non-insulated butt connectors, you know, and then over that, I put an individual little shrink tube to isolate it. Excuse me, fancy footwear. And this I haven't shrunk on there because I wanted to see how it's going to work before I put that on in case there's any issues. So I have it plugged into my surge protector. I'm over here, and I'm going to set this motor on the concrete just in case it sparks out. You know, safety first. It's not anything flammable. So let's see here. Here we go. I'm going to flick it. Well, I think that's pretty good. It feels good. It sounds good. I'm just going to use this motor. So there you go. So for the owner watching this, you've seen what I've done. I have checked your brushes. Your brushes are good. I have cleaned it with the electrical contact cleaner through the ports. New wire. You know, it's connected to this. I cannot get in here. The way that these screws are, you can see, I don't know what they used to put it in, but they're not moving. They are not moving at all. You can see I tried to get these off. They're not moving either. So I've done the best I can. I feel like this motor is strong. This wire that's coming out, it has that little braided wrap on it, and that looks good to me. The one thing I don't like is that there is no grommet here. I may pull my plug off and try to slide a grommet down here into that slot so that there's a little piece of rubber between the wires and the metal of the housing. I think that would be a good idea. And then I'm going to go ahead and try to put this back onto the machine. Okay, so now that I've got my little grommet in there, you know, feel safer about that. Since I was not planning on using this to begin with, the bracket's ugly. So I'm going to take some time, throw a couple coats of black enamel on this. I won't be clear coating it, but just the black enamel. So at least it will look nice, you know. I'm not going to paint this because all of that is open and I don't want to get paint inside of there. So I'm going to paint this, call it a day for today because I need to let that paint dry completely before I proceed. So I will see you later. All right, I have been working on Frankie, adjusting and adjusting and adjusting, and I need to deal with this spring because there's absolutely no way the tension is going to work with this as it is. I've just been putting off the inevitable. So I don't have one on a parts machine that will fit exactly, so we're just going to kind of make the best of it here. So let me cut a little bit of this extra off. Okay, and see if I can go ahead and using, the idea of putting a little loop at the end as a template, and even that loop is, in a little bit too tight. I'm going to see if I can just bend this wire and make it work. So I'll check back with me in a minute. All right, I got it started here where this will go into the machine. It'll come in. I think that I just need to flatten it out, reshape, trim off some of the bottom here. It might work. I'm going to go ahead and go try it out on the machine. Okay, so it's actually been quite some time, and this machine took everything I had in me to get it timed up, which shouldn't be a 27 type machine. Should have been really easy, but something in the balance wheel kept wanting to jam. Something in the needle bar kept wanting to get off. The little eccentric bolt down here at the bottom of the fork has a very, very hard to get to nut in the back, and it did not want to stay in place. But I think I got it. And right now, she's on my treadle base because this is her, original home, and I have tested out the bobbin winder on the treadle, and it works fine. But I wanted to show you if I use the treadle. She is sewing. Don't look at the first couple rows. That's, figuring stuff out, testing stuff out. But if you look back here at this last couple rows of stitches, that's what we wanted. Don't look at that stuff, look at that stuff. That's good. All right, so I have her motor put on. The motor is plugged into the little box, which is plugged into the wall. And just ignore that pile of stuff there. And I have my new electronic pedal on the floor, okay? So here's the thing with this machine, you're going to still want to give it a little help with your hand when you're going to get it started. Light pressure with the electronic pedal, because this motor, it's seen better days, but it's all we have. So giving it a little start. And it doesn't stop on a dime. When you let off the pedal, the motor wants to keep going for a little while. I can't fix that because I can't open it, as you saw earlier, but it works. No sparks, no smoke, no anything like that. And still, the underneath, again, don't look at this, look at this. On this machine, it's gonna have a tendency to want to throw this thread out of this hook. If the tension ever gets totally whacked, take a look up here and see if that thread is in that hook, because chances are it jumped, it just wanted to. So now we know this works, but what I want to see is if I can get my bobbin winder to work with the motor. So I have my little loop. I'm going to put this on here, put it on the back, and it's short enough that it should pull this back to engage a little bit, okay? I don't have a thread on there right now. Actually, I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to pull this thread out of the top so that it won't make a mess while I try it out. Okay, so I've pulled the thread out of the needle, and over here I'm going to turn. Oops, I need two hands here. Hang on a second. Now I'm going to turn this back. It goes almost half a turn because there's only one tab on the washer back there. Click it all the way back to disengage this clutch, okay? So if I push the pedal now, and again, starting it with my hand, this is turning. That's good. Okay, and the needle is not, which is what we want, but don't know why it's stopping there. Let me try it again. Oh, you know what? My little belt I made, the little weld on it was coming loose. Let me fix that. Okay, so I thought I would show you this in case you've never seen. This is, I think it's called roller belt, but I get it in long pieces so I can, shorten it myself. And I'm doing this because this is a very small belt. I don't have anything near this size, so I had to make my own. But what I do is, danger, beware. I got a razor blade stuck in a vise, and I'm going to heat that up with my torch down here at the end until it is red hot. And then I'm going to hold these two ends on either side, pretend they're separated until they start to melt, and then pull them off together and stick them together and hold them until they cool. It's going to weld it together. So I will be back shortly. I need 2 hands to do this. All right, so I have the belt on here, and again, this is my new little weld. It will focus, okay, just kind of welded together there. So I'm going to, when we're not making a bobbin, just put this somewhere else. I am making a bobbin. I'm going to slide it here and put this little bit just on this end piece here. And hopefully you can see the end of the shaft is still, underneath there, so it's not bad. So if I turn this, oops, I was trying to push the treadle pedal. Okay, so I'm going to turn the wheel. And, okay, so that is moving now. So I'm going to go ahead and stick a bobbin in here and see if it will wind. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and thread the bobbin. I'm almost out of thread up here, but we can make it work. I've got my bobbin just kind of set in there with the spring. I need 2 hands to do this, so I'll explain what I'm going to do first. Basically, I'm going to pull this out just a little bit, okay, on this side, and where that gap is, I'm going to slide the end of my thread through so it can catch. Okay, so now that thread is caught just behind the head of that bobbin. I'm going to bring it over here and slide it in between these 2 little toes. Okay, that was wrong. All right, so I've got it between those 2 little toes. There's a guide down here at the bottom. Here it is. Slide it between there. And then while I'm running it, I'm going to hold on to this with between my thumb and my finger just to keep a decent amount of tension on it so it's not going to want to fly out. I'm going to try to do this with one hand while I'm holding the phone. With this finger, I'm pulling the whole little mechanism out a bit so it's going to engage with the belt better. Okay, so you can see it is winding the bobbin, and I'm out of thread. I need to go get another spool of thread. Actually didn't have another spool of thread, so I'm using a 15 bobbin. But from here, you're going to want the thread to come from the front of the machine, go through this little front on the plate, come down around here. That's my little homemade check spring. I think I actually need to adjust it a bit lower. It's working fine, but I think I'd be happier if I adjusted it a little lower. I can do that. Then this comes down here. There is a thread guide on the needle bar. Put it through there. And then I need to thread it this direction from up here in the front of the machine towards the center. Okay, so let me get that threaded real quick. Okay, so the green thread is the top, orange is the bottom. And again, when I'm about to start her, I'm going to bring my hand wheel forward. This is old school here. And again, she doesn't stop on a dime, so when you're ready to stop, put your hand over there. And let's see what that looks like. I think that looks spectacular. When I did the first row, I had to adjust the tension just a bit, but yeah, she is looking great. So what I ended up doing is, yes, I did order a brand new 27 shuttle for her, but for some reason, it didn't want to work with that. So instead, I cleaned up her shuttle, okay? So it's the existing shuttle case that's in there. I soaked it in the evaporust, polished it all off, cleaned it all out, cleaned off the spring and everything, and so it is good to go. And the size 27 bobbins do work. Actually, there's a 27 bobbin in here right now. These slide plates are 27 slide plates. I was trying to use the one that came off of her, and it was just a little too far gone. But I think it's looking fabulous. So there you go. I hope you like her. I hope that you've stuck with me through this epic saga, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.